back. Today I'm going to tell a more interesting story. That more excited. We are going to tell a very romantic love story. Please enjoy. I love you.
The Unbreakable Man, a decade of dreams. The snow fell on Manhattan in a gentle, silent hush, each flake a tiny, fragile promise against the vibrant, electric night of December 24, 2026. From the penthouse terrace of a skyscraper that pierced the heavens, Thomas Andrews, at 31, watched the city below. It was a landscape of dreams, a map of his own 10-year war. The twinkling lights were not just decorations. They were the echoes of 1,000 failed ideas, now outshone by a single, brilliant success.
A decade. That's what it had taken. The journey began in 2015, in a cramped, roach-infested studio apartment that smelled of stale ramen and desperation. Thomas was 20, all sharp angles and burning eyes, fueled by a conviction so fierce it was almost a physical heat within him. He was not meant for a life of quiet mediocrity. He was meant to build an empire. His first venture, a subscription box for artisanal jerky, failed when the artisanal part turned out to be his questionable kitchen experiments. The health department notice was his first business plaque. Next was Appetite, a meal planning app launched in 2017. He coded for 18 hours a day, his face illuminated only by the cold blue glow of his laptop. It gained 100 users, then stagnated. An investor told him the idea was uninspired. The server costs bled him dry.
2019 brought Fleetly, a last-mile delivery service using electric scooters. He managed a fleet of 5, himself included. He broke his arm dodging a taxi on Fifth Avenue that cast a stark white flag of surrender for that particular dream. The pandemic of 2020 should have been his moment, but his logistics couldn't scale, and bigger, more ruthless companies swallowed the market whole. Each failure was a body blow. He'd lie on the floor of whatever temporary apartment he could afford, staring at the water-stained ceiling, the taste of defeat metallic in his mouth. He watched friends buy houses, start families, take stable vacations. He had a stack of maxed-out credit cards and a heart full of ghosts. But giving up was a language he didn't speak. Every no was a challenge. Every closed door made him more determined to build his own. He read biographies of titans like Carnegie and Musk, not for their successes, but for their catastrophic failures. He learned. He adapted. The desire wasn't just to be rich. It was to prove that willpower could bend the universe.
The turning point was born from his own frustration. In 2023, drowning in the administrative hell of his failing ventures, he imagined a seamless, AI-driven platform that handled everything for small businesses: incorporation, taxes, payroll, legal docs, all in one intuitive interface. He called it Aegis. For 2 years, he lived on caffeine and conviction, building the prototype. He pitched until his voice was hoarse. And finally, in early 2025, a Silicon Valley titan saw the diamond in the rough. The investment was monumental. Aegis launched, and it didn't just succeed, it exploded. By his 31st birthday in 2026, Thomas Andrews was not just successful, he was a millionaire, a wonderkind who had, according to the press, emerged from nowhere.
But with the money and the fame came a different kind of challenge. The solitude of his struggle was now filled with a cacophony of voices, and 3 in particular were as alluring as they were persistent. There was Taylor. She was a vision of sharp, metropolitan glamour, a socialite and influencer with the curated beauty of a Vogue cover. She found Thomas at a charity gala, her smile a perfectly calibrated weapon. "Darling," she'd purr, linking her arm with his, "success like yours needs the right presentation." She spoke of power couples, of merging brands, of the parties they would host in the influential circles they would conquer. She was intelligent, undeniably sexy, and saw his wealth as the final, perfect accessory to her own exquisite life.
Then there was Mia. She was a venture capitalist, as brilliant as she was beautiful. She understood his world, spoke the language of IPOs and market disruption. Their conversations were a thrilling, high-stakes tennis match of ideas. She was drawn to his mind, his drive, and saw in him a partner for a different kind of empire. "Thomas," she'd say, her eyes gleaming with strategic fire, "imagine what we could build together. Andrews and Lai, we could be unstoppable." She was the queen to his king, a merger of intellect and ambition. And then there was Rose. He met Rose not at a gala, but at a small, underfunded community library in Brooklyn, where he'd gone to anonymously donate new computers. She was the head librarian. Her beauty, not a sharp, polished thing like Taylor's, nor a formidable, intelligent glare like Mia's, but a soft, warm radiance. She had kind eyes the color of rich earth, and a smile that felt like coming home. She wasn't trying to impress him, she was trying to thank him, genuinely, for the children who would now have access to the world.
The three women, in their own ways, began to orbit his new life. Taylor's approach was a full-scale assault on his social calendar. She orchestrated chance encounters at the most exclusive restaurants, her hand always finding its way to his arm in photos. She sent him links to articles about herself with a winking emoji. For his birthday, she threw him a surprise party on a rented yacht filled with models and celebrities. It was dazzling, but it felt hollow. As he stood at the railing, a glass of vintage Dom Perignon in his hand, Taylor sidled up to him. "All this can be ours, Thomas. Every night. We deserve it." He looked at the glittering skyline, then at her perfectly vacant smile, and felt a profound loneliness.
Mia's courtship was a meeting of the minds. She scheduled strategy sessions, dissecting his business moves with an acuity that impressed him. She sent him dense financial reports at midnight, knowing he'd be awake. For his birthday, she didn't give him a party. She gave him a meticulously researched 50-page proposal for a joint venture. "This is the next step, Thomas," she said, her voice cool and confident. "Love is a partnership, a contract between two powerful entities." He admired her, respected her, but the proposal felt more like a corporate takeover than a declaration of affection. Rose was different. She sent him a simple, handwritten note from the children at the library, their crayon drawings tucked inside. She didn't text him incessantly. She'd message him a photo of a book she thought he'd like, or ask about his day, genuinely listening to the answer. When he, overwhelmed by the noise, confessed a longing for the simple ramen of his struggling days, she didn't offer to take him to a Michelin-starred ramen bar. She showed up at his penthouse door with a grocery bag, an old pot, and a determined smile. "My recipe is better," she declared. Mia's courtship was a meeting of the minds. She scheduled strategy sessions, dissecting his business moves with an acuity that impressed him. She sent him dense financial reports at midnight, knowing he'd be awake. For his birthday, she didn't give him a party. She gave him a meticulously researched 50-page proposal for a joint venture. "This is the next step, Thomas," she said, her voice cool and confident. "Love is a partnership, a contract between two powerful entities." He admired her, respected her, but the proposal felt more like a corporate takeover than a declaration of affection. Rose was different. She sent him a simple, handwritten note from the children at the library, their crayon drawings tucked inside. She didn't text him incessantly. She'd message him a photo of a book she thought he'd like, or ask about his day, genuinely listening to the answer. When he, overwhelmed by the noise, confessed a longing for the simple ramen of his struggling days, she didn't offer to take him to a Michelin-starred ramen bar.
She showed up at his penthouse door with a grocery bag, an old pot, and a determined smile. "My recipe is better," she declared. Rose, who knew nothing of firewalls or PR, saw only the man crumbling under the pressure. She arrived at his office with a thermos of homemade chicken soup. She didn't offer business advice, she simply sat with him in the quiet of his office, her hand resting on his. "However this ends," she said softly, her voice a steady anchor in the storm, "you are not your company. You are Thomas, and you are enough." In that moment, her quiet gratitude for the man he was, not the wealth he had, and her unwavering support was a force more powerful than any algorithm or business strategy. It gave him the strength to fight. He weathered the storm, and in the quiet victory that followed, his choice became clear. Rose, who knew nothing of firewalls or PR, saw only the man crumbling under the pressure. She arrived at his office with a thermos of homemade chicken soup. She didn't offer business advice, she simply sat with him in the quiet of his office, her hand resting on his. "However this ends," she said softly, her voice a steady anchor in the storm, "you are not your company. You are Thomas, and you are enough." In that moment, her quiet gratitude for the man he was, not the wealth he had, and her unwavering support was a force more powerful than any algorithm or business strategy. It gave him the strength to fight. He weathered the storm, and in the quiet victory that followed, his choice became clear. Thomas moved through the crowd, the gracious host, but his eyes constantly searched for one person. He found her near the bookshelf, away from the main throng, talking animatedly with his elderly, slightly overwhelmed aunt. It was Rose, in a simple but elegant emerald green dress, her kindness putting the old woman at ease. At the stroke of midnight, as a soft, romantic carol began to play, Thomas picked up a small silver bell and tingled it gently. The conversation died down, all eyes turning to him. "My friends," he began, his voice steady but filled with an emotion that surprised everyone. "A year ago, I stood here for the first time as a so-called success. But I've learned that success is a hollow building if it has no foundation in the heart. For 10 years, I chased a dream of wealth, failing more times than I can count. I thought the prize was the money. I was wrong." He stepped away from the center of the room and walked towards Rose. The crowd parted, a silent, anticipatory sea. Taylor's smile was frozen. Maya's expression was one of sharp, analytical curiosity. Thomas took Rose's hands in his voice dropping to an intimate tone that carried in the silent room. "The real prize," he said, his eyes locked on hers, "is finding the one person who sees the man, not the millionaire. The one who offers soup, not just strategies. The one whose gratitude for life's simple blessings reminds you what truly matters. Rose, you are my shelter in the storm. Your goodness is the greatest fortune I will ever know." He dropped to one knee. A collective gasp rippled through the room. From his pocket, he drew a velvet box, opening it to reveal a stunning yet elegant diamond ring that caught the firelight and scattered it into 1,000 rainbows. "Rose," he said, his voice thick with love and certainty, "will you do me the extraordinary honor of becoming my wife?" Tears welled in Rose's beautiful eyes, a joyful, radiant smile breaking across her face. The room was utterly silent, waiting. "Yes," she whispered, the word clear and sure. "Yes, Thomas, 1,000 times yes." He slipped the ring on her finger and stood, sweeping her into his arms as the room erupted in applause and cheers. The string quartet, taking their cue, swelled into a triumphant ode to joy. As he held his future wife, Thomas looked over her shoulder. He saw Taylor already heading for the door, her phone to her ear. He saw Mia giving a small, respectful nod before turning back to her conversation, the deal already moving on. They had wanted the king, but Rose had wanted the man. And in the end,
That was the only empire that mattered. Their wedding the following summer was a celebration of love, not status. And their life together was everything Thomas had ever truly desired. Rose, with her innate goodness and sharp, supportive intelligence, was the perfect partner.
She never sought the spotlight, but instead used their resources to quietly fund libraries, literacy programs, and shelters, building a legacy of kindness. They were blessed with 5 children, 3 boys and 2 girls, who filled their grand home not with the echo of wealth, but with the glorious, chaotic music of laughter, squabbles, and love. They were a royal family not by blood, but by the bond they shared. And every Christmas Eve, they would gather in that same penthouse, now filled with worn books, children's artwork on the fridge, and the comfortable clutter of a life well lived. They would stand on the terrace, Thomas's arm around Rose, their children gathered around them, watching the snow fall on the city. He would look down at the twinkling lights, no longer seeing the ghosts of his failures, but the map that led him here, to this moment, this woman, this family. The unbreakable man had found his one true source of strength, and in the quiet, holy peace of Christmas, surrounded by the love he had almost missed in his pursuit of riches, Thomas Andrews knew with absolute certainty that he was the richest man in the world.